How's it going, everybody? Jason here, the founder of Lean Change, and I'm going to share with you 6 things that every change manager needs to know and understand about Kanban. So now that Agile is becoming much more popular in the change management world, it's been a few years, but there's a lot of misinformation out there about what a Kanban system is. So generally speaking, there's a few ways you can, quote, apply Agile to change management. One is using the Agile values and principles to fundamentally shift how you see change and how you behave as a change manager. The second one is how you use Agile practices to manage change work. So that's the one that I'm going to focus on now, and I'm going to share with you 6 tips that will help you make the most of using Kanban in change management. So first of all, Kanban is a pull-based system. That means you are pulling cards from the left to the right. You're focusing on the right side of the board because you want all of the work that is in the column to the left of done to be pulled across so you can pull new work into the Kanban system. So if you see a Kanban system that looks like this, or you see people talking about a Kanban that looks like this, that's not a Kanban board. That is a Gantt chart or a to-do list. So it should look something like this. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about workflow states, but generally speaking, this is your Kanban board. You're pulling work across from doing to done, and then once that moves, now you can pull more work in progress. There's 3 basic rules with Kanban: visualize the work, limit your work in progress, and maximize flow. Visualization is pretty simple. If the work is invisible, it can't be managed. So getting your stuff up and visible on a Kanban board, usually the problem will leap out as soon as you put all of your stuff in some visual way. Could be a tool, could be a mural board, could be a sticky note wall, whatever that is. But as soon as the work is out of a spreadsheet and it's visualized somewhere, it's much easier to manage the work. Limiting work in progress. If you're not doing this, a Kanban system is pointless. Limiting work in progress is an important rule with Kanban because it forces you to focus on the most important things, and it forces you into rule number 3, which is maximize flow. So all 3 of these rules are interconnected with each other. Limiting work in progress gets you focused on the things that need to happen now. And again, because a Kanban is a pull system, once you've pulled those cards into done, now you can pull work into the Kanban system. So if you don't limit your work in progress, you're just going to have too much to do, and you'll be in the same spot you were before you started using the Kanban system. Another little trick, there is something called fixed dates in a Kanban system. So if you're putting due dates on all of your cards, you're not in a pull-based system either, and you're not going to get the benefits out of Kanban. So stick to those 3 rules. Make it visible, limit your work in progress, maximize flow. So I'm going to say a little bit more about maximize flow because, again, that's more of an art than it is a science. You want work to be flowing across your Kanban board, and a CFD diagram is something that gives you the diagnostics so you can see what your flow looks like. So a flow that looks like this is a healthy flow. That shows that work is moving across the board and moving into the done column, and a chart that looks like this is unhealthy flow. So that just shows that stuff is getting stuck somewhere, and you need to do what we call elevate the bottleneck. So find out where things are getting stuck, and then try to figure out how to get them unstuck. Number 3, so the quick example I showed was just to do, doing, and done. Your Kanban system should reflect your existing workflow state, not the state that you want. The whole thing with Kanban is visualize your progress, start putting work through your Kanban system, and then you're going to find problems in your process. So if you have a 12-step process to do some change onboarding thing or whatever that is, your Kanban board should have 12 states on it, because as you're moving work across, you're tracking how long each of the work tickets or things or features or items, whatever you want to call them, how long they're staying in each state. And then now you'll start to smooth out your process, and you're going to find states that maybe you don't need anymore, or states that you can optimize to maximize your flow through the Kanban system. But it should definitely reflect your existing workflow state. So all the column headings that you have across the top, make sure those are an accurate indication of how your process works now. And then again, as you're flowing work through the Kanban system, you're going to find the problems that you need to work on. Next up is policies. You can think of policies as definition of done if you're familiar with Scrum language. So it's basically a set of guidelines, maybe you want to call them rules, really depends, when the card meets these policies, it is now ready to be moved to the next state. So if you're working with multiple teams and you've got handoffs to deal with, then each of those teams should have a policy in place for when they will accept a piece of work. So this doesn't have to be very complicated, and the whole goal is to get a whole team collaborating around an end-to-end value stream. So even if it's different stacks of the hierarchy, if it's different teams, different pockets of the organization, we want to maximize concept to cash, the time somebody asks for something to the time it is out and back in their hands. So if you get too crazy with policies, you're going to end up working against each other instead of with each other. But if you're just starting out with Kanban, it's important to have policies between those different steps, and that sets expectations for how work can move across the board. Next up is creating buffers. Buffers can be useful so you can see how long you're waiting between different steps in the process. Ideally, you want buffers to go away because you want to maximize flow and you want to have a truly pull-based system for this, but sometimes there might be a handoff to a vendor or a different group or something else where they've got their own internal system for how they manage work. So what you would do is in your workflow state, you would take your card, you would pull it into a done column or a waiting column, and that signals the downstream process that there's another chunk of work that's ready to be done. And you can just simply track how many days, hours, whatever that card has been sitting in that buffer state, and your CFD diagram is going to help you understand where things are getting stuck. So you can use a buffer process just for visualization. Ideally, you want that to go away and you want your process to be smoothed out as much as possible. Finally, using swim lanes. So this is not how you use swim lanes in a Kanban system. But this is how you use swim lanes in a Kanban system. So you could break those swim lanes down by team, by department. If you're doing a portfolio Kanban, that might represent individual value streams, and then now you can see all of the work weighted against each other. And then you can do some really cool things like link those together through symbols so you can identify and manage dependencies. And depending on the scope of your Kanban system, what you're trying to visualize, you might have different workflow states across different swim lanes, but in the event you're working on a project go live, say for a systems implementation, you can very quickly have a simple portfolio level Kanban that might have a swim lane for development work, swim lane for vendors, one for change management, one for training. And again, it's a pull-based system, so don't think this is just like a Gantt chart and you can do the same thing. It's not. It helps you synchronize and align work between different streams, but you do not want those swim lanes to be people's names because that defeats the whole purpose. All right, so that's 6 things that every change manager needs to know and understand about Kanban. If you've got a question, drop a comment below and we'd be happy to follow up with another video. Thanks for watching.